When you search for a house to build online, you mostly get things like this.
From the end of the stone bricks by the stairs, remove a layer of the grass so it connects up to the back right.
So I figured I would make a video about the process. And since I'm a realtor who sold homes at every stage, I have a lot of experience to share. Before we get started, be sure to hit that subscribe button for me so that when I make videos like this, you get that little ring on your phone. And if you need help and you aren't currently represented, leave a message in the comments and I can help wherever you are. I think the first thing that we have to talk about are, if you're planning to build, you have three primary options. Option number one is custom or semi-custom. If you're the type of person that wants to do every single part of it, from meeting with the architect to draw out plans, hiring your own plumber, or deciding the brand of air conditioner that you want to be using, then this might be the best option for you and likely the most expensive. And if it's not in the direct cost per square foot, then maybe in time spent or mistakes if you're unfamiliar with the process. Not a deterrent, I'm just educating. The second option is something in the biz that we call Tract Homes. I would say that here, that's by far and away the most popular option. It's like the companies Dell or Apple. They have a handful of things that you can choose from in each category. And then once you pick what you want, that's what they build. It's nice for most people because it reduces the amount of decisions you need to make by about 95%. Don't quote me on that one. And the builders like it because they end up with a consistent and predictable flow of people that want to purchase since they buy all the land. If you want to move into that area, you have to come to them anyway. And then they don't have to spend the money to build until they know they have a customer ready to buy. And our third option is called a spec home or speculative. It's because the builder speculates what they think that people want and then they build a whole bunch of them. They might get cost savings by buying in bulk and that means more money in their pocket. Sometimes you have builders choosing everything in the house, from the color of the faucets to how many outlets are in your closet. That's a real thing. That's where people are putting their routers these days. They don't have anybody coming to them and saying, well, I don't want this or I do want that, because the house is already built. It's like buying a house that was used, except it's brand new. There is a downside though. The builder has to put money into the house, hoping that someone's gonna buy it. There are builders that have gone bankrupt trying to do this in the past, so know your history. We have at least 30 large builders here, and I know who's in bed with who. Let's talk about the process. You knew this one was coming. Hire a realtor. We go on tours of neighborhoods, so we learn like what builders build what product and where, and sell in multiple communities. The person at the model home works for the builder, but they can't objectively evaluate the difference between their house and the house next door because they're getting paid to sell what they've got. While a realtor's pay is essentially a marketing expense to the seller, so you don't have to pay us directly and we can take you to any house or any builder. And if we don't help you get a house, we can't feed our families. And then after you've partnered with a realtor, you get access to their team and we go over things like loans and closing costs and down payment and everyone you need to talk to before you go out shopping. But if you go shopping first, well, you saw what happened in 2008. Are you with me so far? Do you have questions? If you ask them in the comments below, I'll make sure to read them and I can answer them there. Let's talk about how long it actually takes from the day you make a decision to the day you're able to actually move into the house. To give you a time frame without knowing your situation would be ludicrous. It might take you 6 months just to make up your mind. What I will say is that I've sold homes anywhere from 2 weeks to 10 months. What? Every build is different. They could be halfway through with framing a house while you're driving through the neighborhood. And you could be like, honey, I want that. That looks like the floor plan that I was talking about. So you call up your realtor, we talk about the contract and how it fits your needs, and maybe you're moving in 3 months from now instead of 10. There are a lot of variables that can cause the time frame to expand or contract, such as inclement weather. Or a terrible example here in Texas, there were a lot of people that were in the country illegally, and the president issued a search and we lost a huge chunk of our labor force. So then a lot of houses were delayed for a long time and it was out of everyone's control. Another one that's difficult to pin down is the cost. But because it's not a static number, it ends up being the bulk of the conversation. Sure, you can get an itemized list for things like lumber and granite, but so many factors contribute to the cost, like what type of insulation you want to put in the attic, all the way to your personal credit score. So you can't just easily pull out a calculator and say, well, it should be this much. A perplexing example would be building up versus out. On a 3,000 square foot home, for example, the foundation and the roof can be more expensive if it's a 1-story than if it's a 2-story. Why is that? Because the cost of materials is higher when spread across that much space. In a 2-story home, since you're adding a floor upward, you're not going to pay for as many shingles or to pour as much concrete. However, adversely, less people actually want to buy a 2-story home. It's because you have those that aren't good with stairs, or maybe they have young children and they're afraid they might take a tumble. It's a bit of a tangent, but food for thought when it's time to sell. There are also geographical considerations that impact the price. For example, here in Austin, Texas, we don't have basements. Our soil is all hard, and then you hit rock. When I lived in Chicago, that was a whole thing, basements. In California, you have erosion to consider and earthquake reinforcements. Florida gets hurricanes and salty ocean water and the occasional sinkhole. Gas! You know, a lot of neighborhoods around here are all electric, and while that's okay for some, for others, they just refuse to cook on an electric stove. That's why I live in a HelloFresh household. A fridge! Most of the houses you buy in Texas don't even come with one. Or if you're moving from Wisconsin, let's say, you might have to pay a little extra for that shed or even another room, because you won't have that basement that you've been storing everything in for the last few years. And the reason why these are important to mention is because these relocation costs are unexpected most of the time. And they can add up, which is why you have an expert in the area that you can leverage. And after all that, then there's the things like the marble countertops, the wood look tiles, appliance packages, sprinklers, sod. But if you get a spec home, they've already factored in the price of all of those things. And sometimes there are even discounts on top of that, what we call upgrades. But if you're building, many of the builders won't even start construction until they have a certain amount deposited. Like, let's say you really wanted to add a skylight to your ceiling. Sounds great to you, but someone with blue eyes might be allergic to the sun and hate the idea. So the builder's gonna want you to pay for that up front. Because if you back out of the sale, they're gonna wanna put it back to the way that they were going to build it originally, or to whatever's trending in the neighborhood that they're building. Now, the least fun, and probably, ironically, the one that got you to sit and watch this video to begin with, what are the closing costs? How much is the earnest money? How much of a down payment do I need to put? It's a ton of information, and that's why you want to get with a realtor. Because based on your situation, the numbers are going to change. Some lenders may have incentives if you use them. Some builders might offer discounts on some of their designs or their options. And some agents might give you some sort of a rebate. It all depends entirely on you. If your boyfriend's sister needed you to co-sign on her F-150 that ended up getting repoed a few years later, and now you're trying to buy a house, you can't hide that sort of thing from the government when you're asking them to borrow hundreds of thousands of dollars. I mean, you can probably still get the house, but we wouldn't know that without talking through it. That was a lot of information, and I'm just getting warmed up. Last time I'll say it, doesn't cost you anything to have somebody that's knowledgeable to represent you. Save yourself the time, money, and the stress. And if you need one, I'm accepting clients. And if you like this video, there's a button for that. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. amount of decisions, decisions